There's one very important principle that liberals strongly believe in, that liberals will defend, and that is the universality of human rights. That means that everybody, irrespective who he or she is, where he comes from, where she comes from, whatever the background, ethnic, religious, whatever is, we are all entitled to the same rights. What liberals strive for is the freedom of the individual. Each and every individual should be empowered and be protected to live their life the way they wish to live it, to pick an education, to be free in their decisions, which means there needs to be economic empowerment, there needs to be social empowerment, but there needs to also be a protection by the law that tells people you can pick an education, you have the right to an education, you have the right to freely choose your style of living. You can have a family, you can have a same-sex marriage if that is what you feel your life should be like. You are free to choose the career you want to have. So people should be as free as possible, and human rights are protecting this freedom. They're protecting people to make their lives, to create their lives themselves, and at the same time making sure that freedoms don't go over the freedoms of other individuals. So that is the fine line that liberals always need to find, is how far can we go with the freedom of the individual without infringing on the freedom of another individual. All in all, we have to see that the member states of the European Union have, even the worst of us, have a pretty high standard of protection of human rights. And even if in some member states they are degrading, there's pressure, there's in all sorts of different issues that we have to deal with. So we have to keep our house in order, there's no question about that. But compared to some other countries, I could talk about Russia, I could talk about China, I could talk about recent developments in Turkey, I could talk about the civil war going on next door in Ukraine, about the things that are happening in Libya, in Algeria, in Egypt, the civil war going on in Syria. Compared to these situations, we're in a very, very good situation. And what we need to do as Europeans is to make sure that we use our economic and political clout to spread the word of democracy and the word of the protection of human rights. Because it is in our very best interest. It is in our very best interest that our neighboring countries, our neighbors, are developing in a positive way, in a way that we can relate to them freely, in a way that we can relate to them as peers and saying we're members of the same club, the club of democracies and the club of human rights respecting countries. So as Europeans, there is an issue there, and it goes way beyond any question of moral obligations towards others. It is a question of our own political and security interests that we work also on the human rights of people in the countries around us.